documents at various properties, from his garage to his basement. Obviously, this happened after Donald Trump was investigated for classified documents that were littered about Mar-a-Lago. But let's start with this quote, or this exchange between Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz and, again, Special Counsel Robert Hur, who, by the way, it's worth mentioning, worked for Rod Rosenstein and was a liaison to Robert Mueller's special counsel's investigation into Donald Trump, which put him off on the wrong foot with the sort of Trump allies right off the bat. Although he was a clerk for William Rehnquist, he was actually appointed by Donald Trump to one of his positions in 2017. But then obviously ended up working for Rod Rosenstein and working with the Mueller investigation. So people like Matt Gaetz, right out of the gate, we're not happy with that.
Gaetz out of the gate.
Gaetz out of the gate. So here's Matt Gaetz. And I think this exchange, we're starting with it because I think it really encapsulated the point that Republicans wanted to drive home yesterday during Hur's testimony.
February 8th, the White House question, Mr. President, why did you share classified information with your ghostwriter? The president, I did not share classified information. I did not share it. I guarantee I did not. That's not true, is it, Mr. Hur?
That is inconsistent with the findings based on the evidence in my report.
Yeah, so it's a lie. It's just what regular people would say, right? Yeah, all right. So the next one. And all the stuff that was in my home was in filing cabinets that were either locked or able to be locked. That wasn't true either, was it?
That was inconsistent with the findings of our investigation.
Another lie, people might say, right? Because what you put in your report was among the places Mr. Biden's lawyers found classified documents in the garage was a damaged open box. So here's what I'm understanding, right? As Mr. Armstrong laid out, you find in your report that the elements of a federal criminal violation are met, but then you apply this senile cooperator theory that because Joe Biden cooperated and the elevator doesn't go to the top floor, you don't think you get a conviction.
So, of course, Hur famously declined to bring charges, infamously, perhaps I should say, against Joe Biden on that question that Matt Gaetz was just getting at, the willful retention of classified documents. Robert Hur declined to bring those charges because he said it's very similar, echo to James Comey's treatment of Hillary Clinton back in, I think this was 2015, saying that no jury would find beyond reasonable doubt that Biden was guilty of that crime because that question of willful, that Biden was, I think this is the description, a quote, well-intentioned elderly man. Robert Hur said a jury's not going to find him guilty of the willful retention of documents. Democrats, Ryan, yesterday seized on that question. They're upset with Hur for, as they see it, littering his report with pejoratives and basically being an ageist against Joe Biden, being unnecessarily cruel is one way to put it, perhaps. Here's Jerry Nadler absolutely laying into Robert Hur yesterday.
In short, to borrow a phrase from the last administration, the Hur report represents the complete and total exoneration of President Biden. And how does that record contrast with President Trump, the documents he retained, and the criminal charges pending against him in Florida? We know that Trump deliberately took large amounts of classified information from the White House. He has admitted as much, occasionally pretending that he classified this information without telling anyone on his way out the door. We know that he stored that information around Mar-a-Lago in the craziest of places, on the ballroom stage, spilled across the floor of an unlocked closet next to the toilet. We know that he showed classified military plans to an author interviewing him at Bedminster. Quote, as president, I could have declassified it, Trump says on an audio recording. Now I can't, you know, but this is still a secret. Still a secret.
Okay. Ren, what did you make of the dueling attacks on Hur from Republicans and Democrats?
I think what it really showed is what the public deserves is a dual trial of both Trump and Biden.
Same time.
Like, I think we have earned that.
They're both in the courtroom.
They're both charged with the same thing, you know, mishandling classified information. They've both got it tossed about their various properties.
Yeah, they're both clearly.
They both said things that are not true. Now, Trump like engaged in like a massive conspiracy to try to cover it up after he knew that they were going after these classified documents. Whereas once Biden realized he'd screwed up, he basically just said, "Here, take everything." Like, that's the key difference. But I think it would be a lot of fun for the public just to have them both tried in front of the same jury, and you'd have them cross-examine each other.
No, I don't want that. I don't want
Instead of a debate, and it can be moderated by the Presidential Debate Commission.
God,
Right?
it's just bad all around.
That'd be lovely.
Chris Wallace is in the courtroom moderating them.
And then Frank
each other.
Luntz can do a focus group with the jury afterwards.
With the jury.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Well, so on that.
Hold the whole thing in a diner.
So again, it seems like they're both, I mean, it doesn't seem, they both had classified documents. Donald Trump obviously was hesitant to turn them over because he believed that he could.
And he
just
told his
declassify
groundskeeper
documents.
to destroy them and to flood the place, to try to destroy servers. Just clown car Cohen brothers types of cover up.
Speaking of clown car Cohen brothers, Biden's ghostwriter, they touched on this yesterday in the exchange with Hur, immediately started deleting stuff from his notes that showed that Biden had been sharing classified information with him improperly, information that had not been properly declassified. And so, again, that is another thing that Hur was approached by Republicans about yesterday. Also, sort of like Cohen brothers-esque, not quite on the level of the Mar-a-Lago shenanigans.
Yeah, it's more run-of-the-mill criminality. It only becomes criminal when classified information is involved, when you are challenging state power, when you're going against the federal government. Like if you are leaking about the federal government's crimes to the public as a public service, then you're going to get tried. And then you're going to get tortured and put into maximum security prison and put into isolation and driven insane. And even if you're an Australian citizen, they'll try to extradite you here. Yeah. To lock you up for that. But if you're just writing a memoir that nobody's going to read and it's just a grift to get paid off by the super rich publishing houses in New York, then it's basically like you can just do whatever you want.
Yeah, and news outlets, including the Federalist, had obtained transcripts actually of Hur and Biden's full conversations on October 8th and 9th. So if those dates sound a little wild to this, because indeed it was October 8th and 9th as Biden was dealing with the fallout from the October 7th attacks. And the conversations between them showed basically that Hur's description was apt. The sort of Biden did actually at one point, and people might remember that angry press conference immediately after Hur's report dropped that called Biden a confused elderly man or a well-intentioned elderly man. Biden had that weird press conference from the White House that night. Biden actually blamed Hur for bringing up Beau Biden and was just absolutely incensed, sort of indignant that Hur had brought up Beau Biden. The testimony, if you read the transcripts, Biden is the one who brought up Beau Biden. So that entire exchange where Biden was, again, trying to prove how great his memory was and confuse the presidents of Mexico and Egypt. Not only that, he was actually remembering his conversation wrong, which, again, is totally fine. These are long conversations. It went over the course of multiple days. Biden sat for these very long interviews, picking at some painful scabs over the last decade of his life, if not a little longer than that. But again, as he was sort of indignant about a report that his memory wasn't great, his memory was not so great.
Although speaking of people not having a good memory about their own memory,
so good.
Democrats took the opportunity to put together a little greatest hits of Donald Trump-isms and just played them at the hearing, kind of for no reason at all. So let's play it here for no reason at all.
They're basically saying that Trump has his own memory lapses.
Right. Yeah. So let's roll some Trump.
Called like up here, and it's called memory, and it's called other things.
So you don't remember saying you have one of the best memories?
I don't remember that. And Putin, has so little respect for Obama that he's starting to throw around the nuclear word. You heard that, nuclear. We have to win in November, or we're not going to have Pennsylvania. They'll change the name. I talked to Putin a lot.
Did you ask him that?
I don't remember that. I saw that this morning. I don't remember asking him that question. I have a good memory and all that stuff, like a great memory. For 20 years, they were fighting ISIS. I defeated ISIS in 4 weeks. And we did with Obama. We won an election that everyone said couldn't be won. I'm not cognitively. And you know what? When I am, you're going to know it. You're going to be the first people. I know my people. You'll say, all right, Trump, you did a good job. Get the hell out of here.
The Pennsylvania one I don't get. Maybe he's right about that. Like, how do we know? Maybe they will change the name of Pennsylvania.
Change the name
because of whatever happens.
I was curious what you made of that one as a erstwhile Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I mean, it would be sad if Trump's right and they change the name. It's a good name, but
there's no way to know.
Yeah, no way to know. But we will know when he's cognitively blah 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 blah.
Right.
And his people will tell him.
We'll know right away and say, Trump, get the hell out of here.
Yeah, clearly not. Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't use the one where he called his wife Mercedes.
Did he do that?
Yeah.
Oh, I'd missed that one. Yeah. So again, I think it is clear that both of them willfully retain classified documents, although that question of willful is hard to prove in front of a jury. And I think most importantly, even Biden gets at this in his lengthy testimony to Robert Hur, the transcript of the testimony to Robert Hur. We wildly overclassified documents, and that's a point Biden sort of strives to make repeatedly in that conversation with Hur, and that's an entirely fair point. But then we get Ryan stuck in this ridiculous cycle. I mean, this might be one of the most ridiculous cycles of this election. We're going to talk about the inflation numbers in just a bit, but the world feels like it's on fire. Hot conflicts in Eastern Europe, hot conflict in the Middle East, people struggling here at home, and we are now in this doom loop about our elderly leaders retaining classified information, which, again, wildly overclassifying our information. Some of it we know in both cases actually was probably legitimately classified. We have no evidence that that this willfully retained classified information was used improperly by any foreign adversaries, that anyone saw it that shouldn't have.
There's some suspicion with some of the Trump stuff,
with
right?
the Trump stuff that he may have retained it for
like nuclear fleet stuff and other dicey.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely serious stuff. Some of it, at least. Yeah. I'm sure not all of it is. But all of that is to say, this is, of course, what's happening when people leave office. There's actually, interpretations of, what's it called, the National Archive Act, something like that, National Archive Act, that presidents can do this. And I'm not saying that's the correct interpretation, but this is just getting into a legal, again, doom spiral over our elderly leaders. You have Democrats pretending that it's not a problem when it's Joe Biden. You have Republicans pretending it's not a problem when it's Donald Trump, even though Matt Gaetz is clearly getting at whether the DOJ has a double standard. And it's like such a sideshow to the problems because it's just about one-upping each other and the double standard. Like it's so meta. It's like a double standard about a double standard when you get to Jerry Nadler. Yeah,
and we can put up the final element here from this tweet from Byron York. People can pause this and read this exchange if they want to. But curious for your take on this, because I think everybody agrees, for the most part, polls show 90+% of people would roughly say that, that Matt Gaetz is right, that the elevator doesn't go all the way to the top anymore. However, separating all of that out, I think, bungling some of these dates here, to me, is not the clean hit that people think it is. And what I mean is that I do this too, and I'm not senile. It's not easy to remember off the top of your head exactly what year things happened, as far as I'm concerned. Like, did we start rising in 2020, 2021? What year?
Oh, yeah, I never remember that.
What year did we jump over here? 2022, probably.
2023.
Maybe I don't.
You're proving your point live.
I don't actually know. But if I was being interrogated and somebody had calendars in front of me, I'd be like, oh yeah, it was when this happened and this happened and this happened, and that's sort of what he's doing. He's connecting things that happened at the same time. But he does remember that his son died on May 30th.
Yes. Yeah.
And people remember those dates that tragic events or celebratory events happened, but they often don't remember the year. Like, I could tell you the day I got married. My wife doesn't watch this show, so I can admit that I'd have to think for a while and be like, what year was it? It was a long time ago. But I do remember the date. Don't ask me the day. So that, okay, I think he's right generally, but I think the specifics, I don't think he got him there.
So one point on that, though, I will say is that when he's talking about So for instance, in 2017, as Byron pointed out, that's when he's talking about whether he left the Senate in 2017, or he pinpoints 2017 and then talks about it as broadly that era in which he left the Senate. And then he really does confuse the era between the sort of vice presidency and when he ends up actually running for
talking about
president.
Senate, and because he was thinking about running for president twice and conflates them, and
Yeah, he does. So he talks about Obama, obviously saying he doesn't think he should run for president in 2016, and that era he then confuses with when he decided to run for president in the 2020 election cycle. So I totally understand what he's saying. Like pinpointing years, especially when you're as old as he is, becomes impossible.
And he's also a liar.
But he's a liar, yeah.
His staff, and this is not just saying this, like the staff that I've talked to over the years, as well as books that have been written about him, talk about the fact that if he's cornered, he will just tell a straight up lie. And there's also like very public lies that he's told, like the time where he was like he was going to bust Nelson Mandela out of prison.
Yes.
His involvement with the civil rights movement, which when he dropped out of the presidential race, he ended up like apologizing for some of that back in 1988, and then still tells a lie today. Like he tells lies about things that he apologized for previously lying about. And then you add on top of that, it being difficult to keep years together. Yeah, you can imagine how a jury would be like, I don't know.
Yeah, 100%. Although, yes, again, that question of reasonable doubt and the willful retention, that's what this really comes down to. And that's where Republicans thought that they had, and I think they did get a good clip with her yesterday saying, when Matt Gaetz was saying, reading Biden quotes about how he didn't do this, and then going to her and her saying, yes, that is inconsistent with findings based on my report. And Matt Gaetz being like, yeah, that's a lie. Again, though, my broad takeaway from this is just we are in the partisan doom spiral. So welcome to the Thunderdome 2024.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
Hey, if you liked that video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to Breaking Points.
If you want to see the rest of Counterpoints, go to breakingpoints.com to become a premium member and get the full uncut show every morning in your inbox and on Spotify.
Help us build independent news and get the full show every morning at breakingpoints.com.